Before we get started with our podcast today, I want to say thank you so much to all of you who've joined our mission to introduce the world to the joy and healing powers of fly fishing. There are two reasons why I believe we've seen such tremendous growth over the last couple of months. First of all, we have had phenomenal guests who've been willing to give of their time so graciously to talk with us about their experiences and their insights. And the other reason is because of our listeners. This podcast isn't for everyone. It's for people who understand the deeper meaning of fly fishing, that the process itself is the cure, even if we don't land a single fish. To our guests and to our listeners, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. We also have some really exciting news coming up this fall. And if you could do me a favor and go to our website at remote-no-pressure.com and sign up for our mailing list, you will be the first of our listeners to know about our exciting news. Now on to our show. Now there are a million books written on the common traits of successful entrepreneurs. We've all heard about crazy morning routines and positive thinking, or even drinking coffee with butter in it to biohack our brains to success. But this week's guest, Pat Ehlers, from the Fly Fishers Fly Shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, shares with us what he thinks has made his fly shop successful for 3 decades. Oh, and in case you're wondering, he does mention Bret Favre. He is from Wisconsin, after all. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, we have Pat Ehlers from the Fly Fishers. Thank you very much, Pat, for being on the podcast.
Hey, no problem, Jeff. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, and one of the things I noticed on your website and on your bio is you started your fly shop. That's called the Fly Fishers, correct?
Correct.
In 1988.
Yep.
Can you tell us what motivated you to start the shop?
Well, I've been fishing since I was about 3 years old, and I got started fly fishing. My dad was from the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and I've lived in Milwaukee my whole life, but every weekend we'd go up there, and I just always had something going in the outdoors. And I remember the original American Sportsman with Jack Dennis and Kurt Gowdy. Jack was the guide on the original one, and I got to want to watch that show every week. And the really cool thing about it was Jack became a mentor of mine and a really close friend. And I told him that story. We were both speaking at a show, and I think it was Iowa. And a bunch of us went out to dinner after that. And I told him that story, and he just looked at me and said, "That's really cool. I appreciate that." And that show, I saw them floating down the Snake River. And I just said, I don't know what those guys are doing, but I got to do that. And got me started with buying a fly rod. And I tied flies for a while before I fished, just because I could do it. I was 14 years old. I couldn't drive or anything, but I could sit around the house and tie flies. And then once I started getting up north and getting a little bit of fishing in, because there was a lot of trout streams in the area, that was pretty cool. And then one thing led to another, and it was, I need more of this stuff. It was a little bit like crack. And back then, there just weren't fly shops. I remember getting stuff from Fireside Angler, Eric Leiser's place out in New York, and Dan Bailey had a catalog, and everything was just catalog based. And man, I'd wait for that package to come in with some feathers, because I was just a little kid. And, I'd save up $5 or $6 and buy some materials, and even it was just chenille and tinsel, and then I'd sit and crank it out and save up some more money. And as I got older, got wheels, and my dad was really good about stuff. I can remember I went to a parochial high school, and I remember having a public speaking class, and the priest made us pick a subject, and we had to give up and give a talk, and I just didn't want to do it. And just thinking, when am I ever going to speak in front of people? And I couldn't think of anything. And so it just dawned on me, I'm going to take shotgun to school and show everybody how to clean it. So he said, that's great. Nobody's done that before. So in the morning, I got up and took my shotgun out, put it in the case. My dad said, where are you going with that? I said, to school. Why? I told him. He said, okay, don't do anything stupid. Got on a city bus to go to school. Bus driver looked at me. So what are you doing with that? Told him. He says, cool, just don't do anything stupid. And principal met me at the door. Every one of them said, don't do anything stupid. And I got an A in that thing in the class I hated, thinking, when am I ever going to speak to anybody? And here I get paid to do it. Now it's seminars and stuff. So, but anyway, I kind of got off on a tangent with that a little bit. My dad was really good about, I could take the car up north to our hunting camp up in the UP, and I just go up there for 3, 4 days and go trout fishing. And it got to the point where there was really nothing around town. And I knew someday I just wanted to do that. And I just kind of kept biding my time. And then all of a sudden I was tying at a conclave and outside of Wisconsin. And I asked one of the reps, what would it take to start a shop? And back then, I mean, you could never do it now. That was before the internet and all that stuff. So cost of a website to get going is just outrageous right now, let alone starting a shop and that. And that's what got it going. I couldn't get enough stuff, and I just always wanted to do it, so I did.
Did you have any other jobs before you opened your fly shop?
Yeah, I worked construction for a number of years, and I just knew that wasn't going to be in my future. And quite honestly, when I was a teenager, I raced snowmobiles and motorcycles, and that was really my chosen profession. Problem with that is you need a whole lot more money, and you need people to say yes to you when you go asking for money and sponsorship with the racing deal, and it's even worse now. And then I tore up a knee, and that was kind of the end of that. So two things I liked doing was fishing, hunting, and going fast. And the going fast kind of got taken care of by the doctor, so I could still go fishing.
Well, that's great. So you started in 88 and your shop has grown, and just reading through your bio, I mean, it's just so much to even list off. You're quite accomplished in the industry, uh, including the industry and your family and everything. What would you say has been your greatest achievement to date, Pat? I mean, if you look back on your life, what is that one thing that you can look back and say, man, that I did that well?
I'm only one play away from, you know, getting moved out of the way for somebody else, and I think we still have that mentality in the shop that you can't ever take your foot off the gas pedal. You just got to keep going and working and looking for new things and keeping it fresh. And that's what we try to do. So,
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in the last 5 years a tremendous shift in the retail environment. Um, so having that mindset that you have, that we got to stay fresh, we've got to, like Bret Favre, he was a fantastic player. Do you think that's given you the edge? Is you think that was your secret sauce to success with your shop?
um, it's just plain hard work and paying attention and taking care of people.
Hmm.
Your customers don't want to come in the store. It doesn't matter what you do right. And we're pretty proud of the fact that we've got a really strong customer base locally. And that's been branched out because nowadays you can't grow without the internet. And it's one of those deals with the internet. If you're not in it already, you're almost too late for that, the way that stuff's going. And we just try to take care of people. And I'll fire guys if they don't say hi when you walk in or thank you when they leave, whether they spend money or not. We just need people coming in and taking care of us, because without that, we just don't have a shop.
Yeah. That's a great approach. Now, have you seen back in 88 when you guys started, almost 30 years ago, have you seen the dynamic change within the shop? Because I talked to a lot of guys who've been fishing for a long time, and they all say a lot of them grew up, hanging out in the fly shop and watching people tie and learning how to tie. And there's like almost a sanctity to the fly shop. Have you seen that change, or do you guys still have a lot of people come and hang out and just chew the fat there?
No, we don't have a lot of people hang out. Um, things have just changed. You can't put a video on your YouTube channel anymore that's more than 2 minutes long because people just won't watch it. And it's
Mm.
just people are in, they're out, they're just constantly doing stuff. They got kids in school and football season's coming and they got kids in little league and all that. And guys just don't have the time to do that stuff anymore. And the big thing that I noticed changing, and a lot of this has got to do with the internet, and that thing's kind of a two-edged sword in a lot of ways. Um, the like fly casting classes every year before opening day, which is traditionally for the general season. That's the first Saturday in May. So the weekend before, we would run casting classes, and we do 4 groups of 12, 4 times in morning and afternoon, Saturday and Sunday, and then we'd always have to do some more opening weekend. We just had that many people doing it. Fly tying classes, we were just doing them all the time. And now it's hard to fill up any classes. And I know there's places out there that do it, but we get guys that tie flies, but with the YouTube deal going, of which we've got stuff on there, and the internet, and it changed. Guys don't want to come and spend a couple hours in the shop on an evening or come and spend 4 hours or 3 hours in a casting class. And so we just shifted gears with that stuff. We still do the classes, and we just know we're not going to put 60 people through fly tying classes and that. And part of the problem we have with it is the shop just doesn't have enough room to do it on the weekends. So we got to do it at night, and that's a lot of things grabbing at people's time. And the casting thing, I just rolled with it. And right now, I don't even charge for that.
Mm.
I just figure if you're going to come in and potentially spend $800, $900 on a fly rod, I shouldn't be charging you to show you how to use it. And when we do 3-hour classes with 12 people, adults are no different than kids. There's a certain attention span, and they just have had enough, and it's time to go. And I think I can do more one-on-one with somebody for 20 minutes, get started, and have them come back a week later if they go home and practice than I can for standing with somebody with 12 people for 3 hours. And it's a lot more personal, and I think the approach works better anyway. And I think nowadays people just don't want to go do this in front of other people a lot of times. We see
Mm.
that a lot. Just don't want to pick up a fly rod in front of somebody they don't know. So, that's a big dynamic that's changed, and we just shifted gears on it. So,
Yeah, that's great. Let me ask you this question. You have three boys. You're obviously very proud of them. Um, have you noticed that fly fishing is multi-generational, and do you see different generations coming in and out that, hey, that's Jim's kid, or have you seen a lot of these people grow up in your shop?
not the third generation, although I've got some, and it made me feel really old when the first time uh, the grandkids came in. We had a kids class that we did, and two of the boys came in, and it was pretty cool. It's a dad who had passed away and got his kid going, and son's a great guy, and he brought in two kids, and I had a blast with them in the class. And it's just you can't stop the clock, so I guess get over feeling older, but that was pretty cool. So I've seen third generation come in. Not a lot of it, but a lot of second generation.
Mm.
And the second generation, and the fact that dad's either just retired or getting onto that, and the kids have started successful careers to where they're coming in and buying equipment because they've got good jobs in that. And so, yeah, I've seen a lot of that. And that's pretty neat too, that you're buddies with the kids who are now 25, 30 years old that were coming in when they were 10, 15 years old.
Yeah, that would be a neat place to be in and to see that multi-generational. Now, I know you host trips, but are you also guiding? Are you an active guide?
No, I haven't guided in a long time. And Jared, my son, he guided for 5 years up in Alaska. And while he was going to college, he would work with me in the winter, and then he'd go up and guide in Alaska. And I did some stuff up there. I guided some in Montana. I did some around Wisconsin. But, with the advent of the internet and our web presence, catalog that we send out, first of all, I just don't have the time to guide. And uh, Wisconsin's kind of a funny place. If we had mountains, you couldn't keep the people away from here. But we don't, and it's really not a destinational place. But we've got such good fishing here. We've got the best smallmouth fishing in the world here and up in the Upper Peninsula and
Mm-hmm.
Southern Ontario, Minnesota, even Illinois and Iowa, the Mississippi River, the lakes we have, the Great Lakes, just incredible smallmouth fishery.
Mm-hmm.
And we do get some people from out of town to come in and do it, but best muskie fishing in the world. We've got an anadromous fish on the coastal Lake Michigan, and up even on Lake Superior. We got 9,000 miles of trout streams here and over 15,000 inland lakes. And so there's plenty of stuff to be done, but it's not like a Montana or a Florida or any of that. So the guiding, we do have some full-time guides, but they really got to scratch to make a living on it. And there's a ton of part-time people that just um, get in there and do it. And to me, if you're going to guide, you need to be on the water all the time. Otherwise, you're stealing money from the people, because if you're not out there keeping up with the fish, how are you going to take somebody's money and show them where it is? So that's kind of our thoughts on the guiding. We just don't have the infrastructure for it, but there was a time when I did quite a bit of it.
Is there any experience with your guiding when you were guiding that really stands out to you, Pat?
I remember taking my attorney, and he was just getting started, and it was one of the most phenomenal days of trout fishing. And I was just kind of getting the business rolling, and it was a way to supplement the slow sales in the store, because, like I say, back then there wasn't, catalogs and internet for us and all that. And I can remember I had an old pair of the Sims, and this will really date me, but Sims had these great boots that were made by Koflak, the ski boot company, and they were plastic. And I remember talking to Casey Walsh about that one time, and he said, "Yeah, if we sold those now, they'd probably be $450 a pair." But I had these boots and I was nursing them, and I remember jumping down on a trail. We're in the southwest part of the state, fishing the spring creeks, and I rolled my ankle, and it was so bad I thought I had broke it. And it was a 2.5 hour drive to go over there and go fishing. And I needed the money, and I didn't want to disappoint this guy. And I remember just tightening up those shoestrings and just going, God, I hope I can make it. And he caught two or three fish over 20 inches, a couple in that 16 to 18 inch range, and a bunch of them in the 9 to 10 inch range. And he's not my attorney anymore, not for any other reasons. It's not bad. He just went in a different direction than business. But he's still a customer in the store, and he still talks about that day. And about 2 in the afternoon, he looked at me, he says, "That's hurting, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, that's all right." And thank God I had those boots on, and I didn't break it, but I ended up on crutches for about 2 weeks. And so that was probably one of the coolest days on the water as far as guiding. And one of the worst days was kind of in that same area. And I had a guy who just was a know-it-all and just couldn't do anything. And I told him, "You're going to need to cast another 8 or 9 feet." And he dropped a few choice words on me and said, "If you're so smart, you do it." And I threw the cast in there and I caught a fish, a pretty nice one. And I said, "There you go. You're just coming up short trying to be patient and teach him." And he let go of the string of expletives on me, that I put him in a position to where he couldn't catch the fish just so I could. And I just cut the fly off, and I took his rod apart and I handed it to him. And I said, "I'll see you later," and just left. I just wasn't going to put up with that. So That was probably the worst day on the water.
Yeah. So you were with your attorney. I think we're all wondering, did you charge him or did he charge you for the time?
Well, I was going to try to sue him, but he wouldn't sue himself because I got hurt on the stream. So,
There you go.
no, he paid me and he actually gave me a pretty nice tip too. So,
Good, good. Yeah, it's interesting to hear all the stories from some of our guides and we had Dave McCoy on. He's a guide out in the Seattle area, and he just had some brilliant examples and some great life lessons he learned from the bow of the boat, and it's just good to hear all those experiences.
absolutely. And, the thing is, that's really, and, it's not like I was a full time guide and I'm putting months on the water every day. That just wasn't what I did. But I put a lot of time in boats and wade fishing people and stuff, and everything from flat skiffs and bass boats and drift boats and all that kind of stuff. And I really can't think of a lot of bad days.
Hmm.
I remember I was guiding on the Bighorn one time, and I didn't do much time there. I was helping a buddy who was an outfitter who was in a pinch, and I was out in Montana, so I came out and helped him for a few days. And I had a guy just cut me off with his boat, and it was just really a bad deal. And I'm 6'3" and like 225 pounds, and I was in really great shape then, and I was just pissed. And it was kind of bothering me. And as I came up, as we were getting down to the takeout, I noticed he had a number on the boat, and it was a rental. And then the guy just kind of shot in front of me and kind of pushed me out of the way coming into the landing. And that's one of those deals where if you miss that landing, it's a few more miles down the road. And it was getting towards the end of the day. And I just pulled really hard, dropped it in there like I knew what I was doing. And I went over to talk to him. And his dad put his arm around him. This guy was like 25 years old. He said, "Son," he says, "I don't know if we are doing it right, but it's one of the greatest days I've ever had."
Oh,
And, it just took the wind right out of my sails. And I'm so glad I didn't say anything bad to him. It was just a father and son that rented a boat and wanted to go fishing. And he had no clue. And so I went and talked to him. I said, "Remember when you pulled in front of me over there?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Here's just a little thing for you. You shouldn't do that. Um, that could be misconstrued as rude. I heard your dad talking. It's great you had a good time, and but just somebody else might get kind of mad at you."
hmm.
And he said, "Oh, you don't know how much I appreciate that. I'll never do it again. I'm so sorry." I said, "No, that's cool." And so I'm kind of glad I just kind of kept everything in check on that because I would have ruined it for them and I would have ruined it for me. And it turned out to be really a cool deal with the guy. So, I got a whole lot more better experiences than I do bad experiences.
Yeah, that really puts things in perspective in life, just assuming someone's intentions and getting, upset at them or mad at them when really there could be a deeper reason behind that, or maybe
Yep,
they don't even know what they did.
he didn't. And it's just fishing when it comes down to it. I mean, it's our bread and butter. It's how we make our house payments and that, but you know, comes right down to it. It's not a big deal. It was just the problem at the time. The Bighorn was just, and it still is, but it was just so many people on the river and everything, and just a lot of rude behavior. And I just get to the point where I don't like that.
Right.
But I'd like to think, no, I probably wouldn't have once I realized what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. If what would you consider where is your home water? Like if you go fishing, not for work, not for guiding, but let's just say Pat wants to spend just some time on a river, where would that be?
Um, if it was on a river, it would probably be the Wisconsin River. That thing just starts up in Michigan, basically bisects the state right down the middle, and then towards the southern end makes a turn to the west and joins up with the Mississippi over in southern Wisconsin. Uh, that the character of that river. In fact, I was just on it Sunday, and the character down in the southern half, a lot of sandy bottoms, some rock in that, a lot of wood on the shore. And then as you get up into the central part of the state, all the way up to the upper part, it becomes a lot of rock, a lot of hard bottom, granite type stuff and that. And so that river completely changes character. And where it starts, you can't put a boat in it. Um, you can only wade fish it. And people don't even know how good that is in a lot of places. And they just don't want to do the work to get there. Plus, it kind of runs through one of the top recreational areas in the state up in northern Wisconsin because there's so many lakes up there.
Mm.
And people don't like rivers. Um, they're not comfortable on them. They like lakes because they can put a pontoon boat on and they don't have to worry about running into rocks or dealing with the current. Hardcore fishermen love rivers. And I'm not talking about trout guys. I'm talking about guys that want to chase smallmouth or pike or muskies or that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's a lot of room on that river. It's just a phenomenal fishery, and I prefer the upper stretches. Problem with it is it's a time thing. It's going to take me 3 to 4 hours to get up there, where I can be over on the river down here and about an hour and a half from home, so I can do it in a day with no problem. Um, I don't at all consider the Mississippi River my home waters. It's just too far away. And I don't really have a favorite place because there's so much of it here and so many different things. But the Mississippi River is just one of the most incredible places on the planet as far as fishing goes. And I've got some stuff that I do at Sims, and I've got to deal with Ranger and with Evinrude, and Sims wrap my boat along with Smith Optics because I do fish some tournaments in that. And at one of the trade shows, I got introduced to Aaron Martins, and he had just taken a second place up on the Mississippi. And I'm only scratching the surface on that place. And he was good enough to sit down with me for 20, 25 minutes and just kind of go over the stuff after he won it and what to look for. And ever since that day, man, I just love that place. It's just so good. And as big of a river as it is, it's really a cool fly fishing river because you can get back in the sloughs right up until October and fish slop with poppers. And I've been working on some new patterns and techniques that I just still don't have quite figured out, but for doing that kind of stuff. And it's just so cool. And then we've got Pewaukee Lake. If I got my boat at the shop, I can be putting away from the boat launch within 30 minutes,
Mm.
and it could be the best bass lake in the state. 3, 4 pound fish are not out of the ordinary there.
Wow.
So we've just got so much stuff. I mean, I literally, if I've got a day to go fishing, I just sit and go, where do I want to go?
Yeah.
What experience do I have? And then 10 minutes from my house, and I was there yesterday, figuring the eclipse was going to give me the greatest day of my life. But this thing is a 3,500 acre marsh
Mm.
that, for the most part, is 2 to 4 feet deep, and it's just full of bass and pike.
Wow.
And you can fish all day right through November from opening day on top and catch fish all the time.
Wow.
And so that's probably, I guess, I would consider my home water because it's just 10 minutes from the house. But there's just so much here that I consider my home water.
Yeah. What's the biggest pike you've caught out of that?
Out of that place,
Yeah.
about 40 inches.
Man, that's good.
Yeah,
a big boy.
now the problem with that place was back then there were not tons of fish that big, but there were a lot of mid 30s to 40, and there were a few bigger. But because it was so shallow, we ended up with a winter where we got some ice, and we ended up with a December, excuse me, that we had 50 inches of snow in December, and it choked out all the light, and
Mm.
they had a massive fish kill. And now the DNR is trying to get the big fish up again. Like I say, I was there yesterday, but we caught a lot of pike, but they were all 18 to 20 inches, and it just takes a while to get those fish growing. But they do have a one fish 40-inch minimum on the pike.
Now, do you do a lot of ice fishing or not?
Zero. Absolute zero. Just like the temperature. Now my son Jared loves doing it,
Uh-huh.
and he lived on the east side of Milwaukee for a while. and he was 10 minutes from the main boat launch out into the lake. And the brown trout just fill that harbor up and they stay there all winter. And he caught some 5 to 10 pound browns ice fishing, just walking 50, 60 yards off the shore, drilling some holes and then being in the shop by 10 o'clock in the morning. And he likes doing that stuff, and he'll go up northern Wisconsin, go walleye fishing or fishing for bluegills and stuff. And he likes it. And one of the things is we don't just fly fish. I love conventional fishing. It's where I get a lot of my ideas for my flies and things to try too, because there's so many guys conventional fishing and all these tried and true ways of catching fish that I figure, they're doing homework for me. And I just plain like fishing, except not much on ice fishing.
Yeah, I'm in Michigan, so I'm across the lake from you, and
Hmm.
it's the same thing here. I mean, we've got rivers and lakes and streams. I mean, everywhere you go is water, and it's nice to have that. And in the winter time, this what past winter is the first time I've really gotten into ice fishing because I got two young boys and they're stuck
Cool.
inside all winter, so I got to get them on the ice or do something with them, So
Yeah,
this.
there's no, I don't make fun of you for doing it. Here's my problem with it. Maybe once, twice a year, I go out with Jared for a while if he's got a good bite going. My problem is my bass boat will do almost 70 miles an hour. If I need to change places, it's real easy to do it. I don't want to pick up a bunch of stuff and go drill more holes. I get claustrophobic doing that. But we've got all the gear and everything in a garage at the shop and a tent. And I got nothing against people want to do it. I just, like I say, I get claustrophobic. So,
Yeah, I cover a lot of water when I'm fishing the river. If I'm not catching fish, I move and I find them. So I'm the same
yep.
way. One last question for you. Looking back on your life and all that you've done thus far, could you imagine yourself doing anything else?
Um, yeah, I never really learned to play the guitar that well. So, rock star is out of the thing. Um, like I said before, I made a run at being a professional motorcycle and snowmobile racer, and I had a contract with Skoal when U.S. Tobacco, before the big federal lawsuit and everything, and they couldn't advertise anymore. That was probably the coolest gig I ever had in fishing because I just sit and tie flies and talk to people. I didn't have to chew or anything. Um, and I would leave my clothes at the thing and they'd be dry cleaned for the next day. And I got tickets to all kinds of stuff and I got to all these racing events. And then I got to meet Harry Gant. And when he was with the Skoal Bandit car, and we were talking about that, he said, if you don't come to the table with a few $1,000,000, you aren't getting in.
Hmm.
And that was kind of an eye opener to me. And I'd already dinged up my knee a couple of times, and I just kind of knew, you know, that's it. But I probably can't imagine doing anything fishing because I remember being in high school and I'd have all the books there, and yeah, I was only 95 pounds when I was in high school. I wrestled a 95-pound class, and then I grew when I got out, and I played basketball at a pretty good level in the summers and that with the Division I guys that were around town and some of the Bucks, and I was always semi-athletic at least, and all these other guys in high school, they were all just jocks, and they'd make fun of me for reading the fishing books, and they said, "What are you gonna do? Fish for a living?" And it's kind of cool because I did,
That's
and that's kind of
awesome.
a neat end to the story for me. Is yeah, I am, and so it worked out, and probably not. I'm happy with the way things went, and everything's cool with it. So
Yeah, and you got a long ways to go, and I'm just anxious to see what's next for you and your shop. And we really appreciate you taking some time with us tonight, Pat. Thank you very much.
Jeff, I'm so flattered that you called on me. Anytime, I'm happy to do it.
If someone wanted to get a hold of you or check out your shop, where would they go?
Theflyfishers.com, THEFLYFISHERS.com, and you can email us right through that site. My email address is just pat at theflyfishers.com, and then our phone number there is 414-259-8100.
Well, thank you very much, Pat. Thank you so much. Well, you have a great night.
All right. You too, Jeff. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Pat. And thank you for listening to the Remote No Pressure podcast. It's been a crazy few weeks, and thank you again for joining our mailing list, following us on Instagram and Facebook, and downloading our episodes week after week. We're so glad you're with us on the journey. And until next time, go fishing.